Going into the week, Jonathan, our worship leader, asked us to ask ourselves this question, and it was, what do you want from the Lord this week? My answer was boldness.
I prayed, I want to know the Lord more. And I want to know him on a deeper level, not just something more surfacey. I want to know him more intimately, more deeply, more of who his true character is.
I showed up Thursday night not wanting to be there. I had turned into a very cold-hearted person, and I was shutting everyone out, and I was shutting God out.
The first day, it wasn't my best day, because I had recently broke up with my girlfriend. I was kind of sad and angry, and I felt alone. It's not fun being alone and stuff. That's not my fancy. I remember going over to the sanctuary, and then Joey's message about the broad way and the narrow way. I was on the broad way. I was. And I was a sinner.
On Friday night specifically, we went to the beach to go do worship.
Then Joey gave us a message about the grace of God.
He was talking about God's grace, and he had us get 1 grain of sand on our finger. And he said, look at your finger.
You look at 1 grain of sand on your finger, and that's all of the worst sins that you've ever committed.
And then he said, look out at the ocean. He said the ocean is God's grace, and he said to just look at how vast it was and how much it just kept going and it didn't end.
How it could take one of the worst sinners and make him just change everything, and that really struck me. I was on the broad way and not the narrow way, and I wanted to be on the narrow way.
It clicked for me, and the boldness that he gave me through his Spirit was just overwhelming, and I felt like a lion, like I had never felt before.
I just had one of those got it moments, and that was just incredible, just understanding this is who God is, and this is the grace he has for me, and I don't have to try and be perfect and to measure up to all these expectations in my head, because this is who the Lord is, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, it's what God thinks, and all he sees is love and grace.
I was only there for one night, and it was Saturday night. Even though it might have been one night, it was still one of the greatest nights that I can remember to this day.
Everything changed the night we did worship with the full band. I knew God was doing something in my heart, but I didn't. I wasn't ready for it to happen.
I was going through a lot. It was mostly self-doubt. I was trying to change myself into something that I shouldn't have.
That night, when we had the full band worship, all night, I would have the chills. All the weight on my shoulders was just taken up.
Worship that night just really got to me about how I won't be overwhelmed, and I need vision to see, get on the narrow way.
I could tell it was working, not only me, but also many others, such as my friend Jesse back there.
It all came out, and it was such an amazing feeling to have let it all out. It was getting to the point where I was always angry. I hated everything, and it just changed my heart.
I talked with Miss Melissa as well as Miss Beth here, and at one point Beth was on my back. With both hands on my back, I could feel her, and Miss Melissa was on my shoulders as well as my head. So I felt both hands, and then out of nowhere, I felt hands touch my chest. And I know that there was nobody else around. It was just me and Miss Melissa and Beth. I knew it had to have been something that wasn't natural. It was something spiritual and was strong and powerful.
At one point in the night, I can't remember what song it was, but I got startled because Nick came up behind me, and he asked to pray for me, and I was like, yes, please do. And we prayed about how I had so many distractions, and he was right. I had so many distractions. That's when I felt the weight taken off my shoulders. I got down and I started praying and just sitting there with my eyes closed, thanking God for what he has done and what he's gonna do to me and to many others.
It had been a long time, a very long time, since I felt the presence of God and him around me, and that night I just felt him all around me, and I knew that I wasn't alone anymore, and I had somebody to confide in.
He was saying, if you're alone, go pray with somebody. And I was like, I could just stay here and just do my own thing, but Jonathan just felt like he kept saying that. So I went over to Beth and I asked if she could pray with me about me coming to Jesus. And we prayed, and I gave my life to Jesus that night on July 14th. That changed like everything.
It gave freedom to my friends and to me. I just had this joy, this unending joy, and I wanted to worship him and serve him, but know that I could rest in him and have peace.
I was crying everywhere, and she asked if she could go get people to come pray and like celebrate that I just gave my life to the Lord. And I said, okay. And I remember their faces, they were all happy, and like, I remember hearing all of them say, thank you, God.
There was such a freedom. Like there was this burden that was gone, and inside me I'm going, this is what freedom actually feels like. Like this is what it is.
I remember feeling myself be lifted up and made whole again. I was feeling like a new person, like God had taken this one layer and ripped it off me and made me into what he wanted.
The Spirit just came down upon me like I had never experienced before. It, touched my physical and emotional state. But outside of the emotional and the physical, I just knew that it was real and that the Spirit was moving.
Every time I think about it, I just get so happy that I made that decision. That was the best move I could have ever made. It's the best choice ever. I'm glad that I went on this trip. My mom actually made me come, so thank you, Mom. Thank you.
So now I know more of who God is and his character and his love and grace for me.
That's like God just changed everything.
And I know that it's going to carry on into the future.